In the last video, we saw Harold, who was an ordinary Korean man working an average job. He had lost his parents 5 years ago in an accident and had recently recovered from an addiction with the help of his new job. One day, as he opens his window to let the cool air in, he finds a dimensional gate has been opened there. While he is initially uncertain about what to do, he takes the leap of faith and enters it. He comes out of a fantasy medieval European village called Raudoren village. He gets a house, 1,000 gold coins, and a subspace pocket to help him carry things between the dimensions as he signs the contract. The people in Raudoren are nice and welcoming, and Harold makes many friends, like the genius cook Melody and the cheerful muscular guy Hans. Harold finds that the village is beautiful and refreshing, and the food Melody cooks is delicious. Apart from those two factors, there is nothing much going for the village until he finds out how expensive common items like mirrors and spices are here. Harold decides to venture into trade and befriends a boy named Mino and some other merchants to sell mirrors and black peppers to them at a discounted rate. He makes good money because of that and decides to quit his job, where his toxic manager always bosses him around. Soon, Harold runs into a noble's daughter, Veronica, who is headstrong and reckless. She loves Melody's cooking and doesn't behave like a noble at all. Despite being weirded out by her, Harold quickly befriends her, and they work together to solve the mystery of an attack on a neighboring village orchestrated by a noble planning to buy the area. To thank Harold for his help, Veronica's father, Count Meredith, rewards him with money and a letter of recommendation that can help him buy the title of a noble. Our MC has another girl in his life too, and that is Helena, a creepy and rude girl who lives with her mom. He decides to be on good terms with her and eventually finds that the woman is not Helena's mother but her nanny. As she dies, she leaves the girl in Harold's care, and he soon finds that Helena is a wizard, and a half-elf at that, which means she is from a duke's family. She doesn't care for anything except bread, and Harold manages to tame her thanks to his baking skills. As his modern cooking techniques wow everyone in the village, Harold passes his days in peace and soon decides to buy the certificate of nobility for himself. With that, he decides to leave the Raudoren village for a while, and leaves them with some nice farewell gifts before going to the Meredith city to learn the ways of a noble from Veronica's family. Helena accompanies him because she has nowhere else to be, and though she gets off to a rocky start with Veronica, they quickly become friends. Count Meredith tells Helena that her dad has passed away, and she is the Duke now, but she has no intention of revealing her identity to the world right away. While Harold completes his lessons, he creates new recipes and decides to make them popular under the Meredith family's name. Soon, he meets Veronica's older brother Carl, who wants to become a chef but has to take on the family name under family pressure. However, at an international trade fair, he finally gathers the courage to present a dish he cooked to the guests, and then declares that he will leave his position as the heir to the Meredith family and pursue his dream of cooking. Everything goes well for everyone after that, and since his family has been getting a lot of benefits because of Harold's help, Count Meredith plans to reward him well. After the trade fair ends, Harold takes a midnight walk with his two girls and thanks them for helping him have a good time, and they say the same thing to him too. Veronica then asks Harold why he is traveling alone in the first place when he is an amazing person who can do so many things, and he hesitates about telling them the truth. He then takes a deep breath and decides to open up to the girls about his traumatic past. Harold explains that one day, his parents met in an accident and they died on the spot. As he reached the hospital, he was devastated to see their dead bodies. Despite that, the person responsible for crashing into their car while drinking under the influence was not punished seriously. Apparently, he had a Saul Goodman-level lawyer who made the judges agree that it was an honest mistake, and the man got scot-free with just 1 year of prison and 3 years of probation. Harold was devastated, and when the culprit sneered at him, he lost his cool. He grabbed him and declared that he would kill him, but the people around him held him back. Harold could not do anything, and he drowned himself in the online world and alcohol, living his life like an addict. He thinks that during that phase of his life, he read a lot of web novels and wonders if that is why the dimension gate showed up at his window or if it was a gift his parents sent him from the other world. However, he was telling this story only in his mind, and Veronica asks him if he doesn't have anything to say. He continues from where he left off and says that his parents were killed in a carriage accident because of a drunk driver. Veronica says she is sorry about that, while Helena doesn't even say anything. Harold tells them that he has gotten over it now, and traveling and coming to this place helped him a lot in that. With that, he tells the girls that they should head back to the castle already. On the other hand, Count Meredith receives a letter from another noble family called the Raudoren family, who write that the food served during the International Trade Fair has started trending everywhere now. Count Meredith smiles as the Raudoren family thanks him for making their vanilla beans popular with the gelato. The Count's butler remarks that, along with the Pete family, the Raudoren family has the biggest influence in the kingdom, and he suggests that they should increase their trade with them. The Count replies that the gelato was apparently Harold's idea, and the butler thinks that he knows a lot of things for his age. On that note, he asks Count Meredith if he is really planning to give an important property under him to Harold. He thinks that since Harold's identity and background are not clear, they should think a bit more about it. However, Count Meredith doesn't bother too much with that. He remarks that he heard about Harold having no talent with swords, and that means that he won't be able to point his sword at him at least. This man has mastered the art of optimism. The Count then declares that he has made up his mind and asks his butler to summon Harold immediately. Right now, Harold is training his sword swings, while his girls enjoy luxury treatment as they watch him. Veronica remarks that no one can be good at everything, and Helena agrees. Veronica says that Harold is worse at sword fighting than even her brother Carl. But then Helena moves on to the more important topic and tells her that she is eating the cookies too quickly. Just then, the butler arrives there and tells Veronica that the Count wants to see Harold. She yells at him to tell him that her dad is looking for him, and he asks his instructor for permission. The instructor tells him to go because he is just wasting his time here anyway. Despite his comments, Harold is still hopeful that he can at least protect himself from a thief if the situation ever arises. With that, the butler approaches Harold and tells him to take a shower before going to meet the Count. Later, he visits Count Meredith and asks him what he wants to talk about. He replies that he has a proposition to make, but before doing that, he wants to ask Harold about his reasons to help their family during the incident with the Panch noble family where he let them borrow the lie detector. Harold thinks for a bit and then replies that, in all honesty, he wasn't even trying to help the Meredith family, but just the people of the Raudoren village. He claims that the village is his second home, and that is why he didn't want it to lose its freedom to the Panch family's schemes. The Count is pleased by his answer and then says they can talk about it more at a later date. For now, he cheerfully asks Harold if he has thought about the land he is going to take as his territory. He says that if the young man has not thought about anything, there are some lands he has that he wants to show him as a sign of his gratitude. Harold nervously replies that he just can't take something like that, but Count Meredith assures him that he has helped their family many times, so he deserves that much. Harold hesitates and then tells the Count that instead of the land, he wants to take a person as his reward. The Count wonders who Harold wants, and he swears that if he wants his daughter, he is going to lose his head right here. He asks Harold about the person he has his eyes on, and he replies that he wants his butler Lucas. Don't tell me he swings that way. Count Meredith is stumped upon hearing his answer, and then he laughs gently while saying that there is no better wealth than the company of good people. He knows that Lucas comes from a long line of established butlers who have served the Meredith family for ages. He knows a lot about how things work in noble families, and he has talent too. Count Meredith thinks that anyone would have ignored a mere butler, but Harold took great interest in him, and he is impressed by his judgment. He then declares that assigning Lucas to him is just a bonus, and he can have the land too. Harold asks him if that won't be too much, and the Count asks him if he plans to start his journey as a noble without land in that case. Harold is confused about his intentions, so the Count tells him that if he has money, he can always buy land and build a mansion. But that is not the most important part of being a lord. He asks Harold how he will get people to live on his land with just money. That is why Count Meredith plans to give not only the land and the buildings to him but also the people living in the territory and livestock too. He asks Harold if he is going to refuse such a generous offer, and in turn, he asks him why he is being so nice to him. The Count replies that he sees great potential in him and then tells Harold that they should go together to take a look at the land. Soon after that, Harold returns to his room and prepares a chocolate shake for his butler Lucas, who can't believe that he gets to eat such an expensive-sounding dish. He is amazed by its taste, and Harold tells him to hear him out while drinking. He first asks him if he got any messages from the Count, and Lucas replies that he has heard about being assigned to serve Harold. Harold asks him what he thinks about that, because he doesn't feel that it is fair to take Lucas away like this. The boy replies that he needs more time to come up with an answer because his future is at stake here. Lucas takes a good look at Harold, who looks like a dull and harmless man, but since the Count is planning to give him some land, he thinks that there must be something special about him. However, going with him means that he can never achieve his goal of becoming the top butler of the Meredith family, and Lucas is confused as he keeps on eating the dessert. After he is finished, Harold asks him what the most common reason is for a barren family to get ruined, and he immediately replies that it is money. Harold was expecting that and then asked if there were any fights over land too. Lucas replies that fighting among counts is rare, but the small landowners often fight each other. Harold is afraid that his territory can fall because of the war, and Lucas tells him that he can hire soldiers with money to protect himself. That hits Harold like a truck, and he calculates his current situation. With the 3,000 gold coins he has, he will have to use 1,000 of them to pay his tax, and with the remaining, he cannot hire more than 20 soldiers in a year. Harold thinks that at this rate, his territory will be doomed, and he thinks that establishing a business comes first before taking land. But he still wants to see the land. Later, Harold meets up with his girls, who are also going to join him and the Count to see the property. He asks them why they need to come, and Veronica replies that the first reason is that she is bored. The second reason is an amazing valley in the land, which she really wants to see. She claims that there are stories about how elves used to live there, and this makes Helena curious, and she asks for proof. However, Veronica can't tell her anymore because she only visited that valley once when she was small, and she remembers that the water was beautiful there. She tells Helena that they can find out about it when they reach there, and with that, their journey starts. In the carriage, Harold starts feeling nauseous because of the terrible condition of the roads. He is the only one feeling motion sickness, and everyone is fine. Veronica is enjoying herself as she looks at the scenery, and then she boasts to Harold about her stamina. She claims that she can run over the mountain range and reach the city without a break, and Harold wonders what the relevance of that information is here. After that, Veronica turns to her dad with puppy eyes and asks him to take her to the capital city the next time he goes there. But he refuses. He tells her that it is not safe because they have to cross the dangerous mountain range, and Veronica lashes out at him, saying that he always takes Carl with him, even though he is much less reliable than her. She doesn't give up and tries to flatter her dad, but he is still not going to give her permission. Seeing them makes Helena a bit jealous, but just as Harold notices it, their carriage comes to their first stop. Harold is amazed to see the huge mansion, and the Count says that they are going to stay here tonight. He then orders Harold to be given the best room, and he immediately plops into bed the moment he enters his room. He is morbid as he thinks that from now on, they will have to travel on rocky roads, and that will make his motion sickness even worse, so he decides to increase the dosage of his medications. The next day, he wakes up early and goes outside to see Helena on a walk. He greets her and asks if she is on a walk too, and she replies that she couldn't sleep well because she had something on her mind. As they walk together, Helena reveals that her family used to go on trips without her, and whenever that happened, she felt so lonely that she couldn't stay in the house and took walks like this. Harold thinks that it must have been hard for her, and Helena replies that she is better now. She claims that the 5 months she has spent traveling around with him felt short, and Harold teases her, asking if she wanted that time to last longer. She admits to that instantly, and he doesn't know how to cope with that because he was hoping she would deny it. Seeing Helena look gloomy, Harold tells her that she can keep traveling with him if she likes, but she doesn't give him any answers. Soon, they start moving again, and Harold feels impatient inside the carriage. He wonders when they are reaching their destination, and then the Count tells him that they have entered the land of overs, which he is going to show him. Harold feels that the place is quite empty, and just then, someone throws a stone at him. Whoever did it had great aim, because he hit a headshot on Harold first and then one on Veronica as she got up to see what was happening. She is not worried about herself and gets angry that Harold's forehead is bleeding. Count Meredith is furious and asks his guard what is happening. He learns that there are some rogues nearby, and commands the soldiers to arrest them and bring them before him. The soldiers find the man responsible for the headshots, and he begs the Count to kill him. He screams that he would rather get executed than live in this poverty-stricken land where only the landlords get to live happily. Count Meredith says that he doesn't know what he went through, but that doesn't justify what he did, and he tells the soldiers to arrest him. The man didn't even care about justification. He just wanted to get out of his misery. After that, Helena gives her handkerchief to Harold to wipe his blood, and he remarks that he never thought he would live to see the day when she cared for him. She replies that she does not like people getting hurt, and on top of that, humans live for very short periods of time. Veronica asks Helena to worry about her too, and she replies that since she is in a mood to irritate her, she must already be feeling better. Count Meredith claims that these types of situations arise when people get the wrong landlord. Harold asks him who the hell is the landlord of this place, and the Count replies that he is a distant relative of his family. They soon reach the landlord, who cheerfully welcomes the Count and the other guests, unaware of what is going to happen to him now. The landlord asks Veronica where she got the wound and says they should get it treated immediately. However, the Count drops the bomb on them and tells them to start packing and leave this place. He says that if they leave without complaining, they will still get a small house in Meredith City. The landlord nervously asks what he means by that, because this is his land. The Count simply threatens to use force if he doesn't get out now, and when the greedy man says that it is too sudden, he loses his cool. He lashes out at him, saying that because of his greed and incompetency, the number of citizens here has been halved and many people have become rogues. He says that the farms are full of weeds and the houses are empty, but the landlord and his family couldn't see it all as they were busy wasting money on useless things. The Count tells him to leave right now or die, and Harold finally realizes that they are not here just to see the land. The landlord has nothing more to say, and he agrees to leave. Count Meredith declares that his family is exiled from the Overs region today. Until a new landlord is found, he will oversee this region himself. After that, he asks Harold to take a walk with him, where he apologizes for showing him the horrific situation of this region and the landlords. Harold remarks that it was necessary to show that fat pig his place, and then the Count asks him if he likes this location. He replies that he does, and then the Count tells him that a port town called Ench is 3 days away from here. Harold is surprised to hear that, because Ench seems nearer to Meredith than the port town of Pusing, and the Count affirms that. He starts telling him that all the fishermen in the Ermine Empire belong to the imperial family, and they live and work in Ench. Harold wonders why the man is telling him this, and then imagines the map of the region. He thinks that Meredith City is near 2 port towns, and Pusing is already stable and flourishing. He realizes what the Count wants and asks him if he needs him to take Ench under his control. In response, Count Meredith just smiles before telling Harold that he is quite smart. He then claims that Meredith City is already quite busy and full, and there is no place for new merchants to come and stay there. That is why he wants to develop the route from Ench to Overs so that it becomes more active and gives the merchants more places to stay and work. The Count says that if they develop this land and create good roads, they can reach the city in just 1 day. He then asks Harold if he wants to join him in this ambitious plan. Harold is a bit hesitant as he wonders what he should do and thinks that the Count is an important person with many connections. He wonders if it is really okay for him to be in the middle of all these things, and he is not confident about that either. So he tells the Count that he wants to gain more experience before taking on such a big responsibility. The Count understands and says that he was trying to rush things a bit. He says that Harold will need time to prepare for his own future too, and he thinks that they should talk about this land after 3 years. On that note, Harold asks the Count what kind of potential he sees in him, and he replies that it is hard to pin it down. He feels that Harold is different from other people, and the fact that his parents passed away is also one of the reasons. Count Meredith says that since Harold does not have any background and no unnecessary relationships, he is free to make more bold choices. Our MC doesn't like this part, but he lets it slide for now. He thinks that from now on, he wants to create a background for himself. Soon after that, Veronica, Helena, and Harold are in a carriage. Veronica cheerfully says that it's great to be outside. Earlier, she was afraid that her father wouldn't let her out of the house after the stone pelting accident, and he did his best to forbid her from going out. However, thanks to Duke Helena, who wanted to visit the valley and asked for Veronica to be sent along, he had no choice but to obey. Harold asks her if her dad wasn't overreacting because they are not going far away, and there are also guards with them. Veronica replies that the headshots occurred when the guards were around too. Helena tells them to stop doing useless things and then asks how long it will take them to reach the valley. They arrive at the Valley of Fantasy soon, which doesn't live up to its name. It is overrun by weeds, and Helena asks Veronica if she is sure that this is the place. She is positive and asks her soldiers to cut down the weeds, but Helena stops them. She uses her magic, and suddenly, the weeds give way and reveal a beautiful waterfall. Harold and Veronica are amazed, and as they are admiring the beauty of the waterfall, Helena quickly jumps into the water. Harold panics, while Helena feels alive inside the water because she is a water wizard and feels her magic growing because she is in her element. Outside, Veronica panics and shakes Harold as she tells him to jump into the water and save her because she can't swim. Harold reminds her that Helena is the wizard of water, so she won't drown, and that makes the redhead realize that she was worried for nothing. Just then, Helena comes out of the water like a dolphin, and as she steps on the land, Veronica asks her why she did that. She then notices that the elf girl looks like she grew a little, and she looks more full of life too. Harold can't seem to notice the difference, and as he hands Helena a towel, he asks her why she suddenly jumped. She smiles as she replies that the water here is really good, and her friends can't believe that she smiled. They think that she was physically incapable of giving that reaction. Before she can find out what they are talking about, Harold and Veronica say that they are glad that Helena liked the waterfall, and she replies that they should go back to the mansion now. As soon as Harold lies down in his room later, he realizes that he is too tired. But just as he is about to go to sleep, Helena pays him a visit, and he is annoyed. He asks her what she is doing here so late at night, and she tells him that there is something important that she wants to talk about. She asks Harold if the Count is going to hand over this land to him, and he affirms before saying that he needs to go to the city and earn some money before thinking about the land. Helena replies that whenever it happens, she wants him to rule this land. Harold asks her if she liked the pool that much, and Helena rebukes him as she replies that it is not a pool, but an elf spring, which is like a pond of mana. She explains that if an elf lives near an elf spring, they can live forever without eating. Why do I think that it is heading towards a marriage of convenience? Helena then tells Harold that she has never felt more alive or energized before. She reveals that there are only 5 elf springs in the entire empire, which is really rare. She wants the elf spring, and to have unlimited access to its mana, she wants Harold to take it. She declares that if anyone takes his land before him, she will personally kill that person and take over. Harold first tells her that the Count gave him 3 years, and then he asks Helena if it is fine for her to reveal such a big secret to him. She replies that she only told him because she trusted him, and Harold is taken aback. Helena says that a lot of good things happened after she started traveling with him, and Harold replies that she might be a lucky person in the first place. Helena immediately thinks of her father slapping her when she hears this, and she rejects Harold's hypothesis. She calls him an odd man and then repeats about the elf spring being an unlimited source of mana. She tells him that if she keeps taking dips in it, she can use magic without any breaks, and she tells him to think about the benefits of doing that. She leaves with that, and Harold thinks that it will be better to keep this news a secret from others. The next day, as everyone prepares to leave, Helena declares that she wants to stay at this place for a while. Veronica suggests that she can stay over too, and they can live their lives as 2 free girls. Helena rejects her suggestion, and then Harold tells her that he is going to take his time coming back and asks her not to cry if she misses him. With that, Harold and Veronica leave for Meredith City. She is a little sad because, once they reach the city, Harold will immediately travel to the capital. She asks him if it will take him 3 years to come back to the Overs region, and he affirms. Veronica claims that she has already requested that her dad prepare the documents for the transfer of the property because she wants to make sure that Harold returns. Harold says that it was unnecessary and then remarks that it would be good if she got permission to come to the city with him. Then he asks Veronica why she always fights with Helena, and she replies that he must be mistaken because they are close friends. Harold laughs at that, making Veronica angry. She claims that they are not your typical noble girls, but they have some meaningful conversations from time to time. Their carriage soon reaches the village of Raudoren since Harold has some business there, and Veronica also wants to hang around and eat Melody's cooking till he is done. Just then, Hans spots them and asks them what brought them here so suddenly. He excitedly asks Harold if he is here to take him because his parents permitted him to go out and work under him. Harold panics because he had completely forgotten about it, and Hans is sad as he realizes it. Harold tries his best to console him, and then tells him to join him when they leave for the city. Hans feels better after hearing this and then leads the 2 guests to the inn. Harold says that he is good with staying at his house, while Veronica wants to spend all her time with her dear Melody. Soon, Harold goes to his apartment in the modern world, using the Dimension Gate. He remarks that it has been 4 months, and his subspace storage has been collecting dust. He starts thinking about what he should take with him on his way this time. He has heard that the road to the capital has some rough patches near the mountains, but he decides to leave that to later because there is something more important at the moment. Harold goes to the grave of his parents to pay his respects and to tell them that he is doing fine. He remembers that they passed away on his birthday, and at that time, he felt that he might never be able to celebrate it again. But now, as he walks through the Dimension Gate, he feels that he can talk with his friends about his birthday. Soon after that, Harold returns to the village, where he checks the supplies he brought along with him. He has animal and plant encyclopedias since the flora and fauna of both places are the same. He also has some instant ramen, energy bars, snacks, a compass, and a first aid kit. Also, he has a revolver in case they are attacked by wild animals or bandits. Most importantly, he has bought woolen clothes for himself and his friends because they are going to cross the mountain range. which is cold and dangerous. After that, Harold first reaches the castle in Meredith City, where Lucas is waiting for him since he has decided to accompany him. Hans is also there as a new servant, but Lucas doesn't like him yet and refuses to greet him. The carriages are ready, and as everyone is getting ready to leave, Harold notices that Helena looks bothered by something. She tells him that she is worried about Veronica, who has not come out to bid them farewell. Harold tells her not to worry because he feels that Veronica is just crying alone because she won't be able to control her tears if she watches them go. Helena asks him if saying goodbye is so sad because it is not like they are dying, but he replies that Veronica is more emotional than she looks. The Count and his wife wish Harold and Helena a happy and safe journey, and he thanks them for everything. However, a few days into the journey, Harold is bored to death. He asks Helena if she doesn't know any wizards that can open portals, and she asks him why she would be traveling like this if she knew one. Just then, the caravan stops, and one of the guards tells Harold that they are going to stay here tonight. He leaves to set up a campsite, and later everyone sits around a fire inside their tent. Harold notices that Helena looks tired and cold and decides that it is the correct time to pull out the special clothes. He reaches into his box and pulls out a purple hoodie for her, and she asks him what it is. He replies that it is a jacket made out of duck feathers, and it will warm her up. He then gives Hans and Lucas their jackets, who remark that they don't feel the cold or the wind after wearing the jackets. Helena asks Harold why he always gives her purple clothes, and he replies that the color suits her. She smiles and blushes a little as she thanks him for the gift. Hans asks if it suits him too, and Harold says it does. He then asks him to fetch some water because he wants to make the food from his hometown for them today. He tells Hans and Lucas to go to their tents and rest while he cooks because he doesn't want them to see instant food. As Harold starts cooking, he wonders if he can tell anyone that he is from another world and thinks that Helena may understand him since she is a wizard. He then decides to ignore everything because food is more important. After he is done cooking, Harold calls his friends to eat, and they remark that the food looks like hair. Lucas is disgusted at imagining that and asks them to please shut up. Harold then tells Hans that this is called noodles, and he has already eaten them. Hans doesn't remember, and Harold tells him about the farewell snack he gifted all the villagers. He explains that this is the same thing, just boiled. He then gives everyone their bowls, and despite Lucas saying that he should not eat with his master, Harold tells him to forget about such formalities right now. Helena knows that the noodles are made of flour, which is the same thing bread is made of, and that is why she thinks that it won't be bad, but she still has doubts. Harold tells her to eat it using a fork and demonstrates how it works. Seeing him slurp the noodles, Helena tells Harold that he should take his noble etiquette certificate and burn it because he doesn't seem to have any noble-like manners right now. Harold laughs at her and says this is the correct way to eat noodles, and he tells her to try it too. He says that he will keep it a secret that she made slurping noises while eating, and Helena is ready to kill him because that way he will most definitely keep a secret. This girl always thinks in extremes. Harold apologizes for teasing her, and she calms down before eating. A few days later, Harold and his group finally get over the mountain, and he is relieved that they can finally use a paved road. He asks Helena where she is planning to stay once they reach the capital, and she replies that for the time being, she will stay with him till she can get her mansion back. Also, she had promised to help him for 1 year, and 5 months are still left out of that. Helena then adds that if Harold takes the Over's land, she plans to stay there forever. Harold is stunned to hear this and wonders if this is a marriage proposal, but he distracts himself from such thoughts by thinking about baseball. He realizes that the only reason Helena wants to stay with him is the elf spring. Yep, we have finally identified our female lead. Soon, they reach the capital. Harold is excited to see a big city, and Helena tells him to keep his emotions in check or everyone will know that he is a hillbilly. Later, Harold and his friends take a room at a good hotel, and he is relieved that they don't have to travel anymore. Lucas asks him if he would like to order lunch, and Harold gives him the go-ahead. Just then, someone knocks at the door and his butler says that he will send him. But since Harold is curious about the guest, he asks Lucas to bring them in. The guest is a butler from the Raudoren family, who tells Harold that their count wants to see him as soon as possible. He doesn't know the reason for this summons, but he asks Harold to make some time to visit them. Our MC doesn't fully trust the Raudoren family yet, but he wants to meet them and find out what they are planning. The butler tells him that they can meet immediately in a building nearby, and Harold accepts the offer. The butler leaves to get his carriage ready, and Harold tells Lucas to have lunch with others while he makes a courtesy visit. Harold meets Count Raudoren, who welcomes him and thanks him for coming to meet him on such short notice. After exchanging pleasantries, Harold gets straight to the topic and asks him the reason for calling him here. The Count replies that it concerns the gelato he served them. He explains that his daughter loved it so much that she got ill while demanding another gelato. Count Couldn't wants to buy the recipe from Harold, and he has the documents ready. Harold is shocked to realize that the Count knows that he created the recipe and wonders who told him that. The Count knows what he is thinking and reveals that he has a reliable informant who gave him this news. Harold thinks that he should be careful dealing with nobles from now on. But right now, he doesn't have any plans to sell the recipe. He tells Count Couldn't that he is hesitant about his offer because he wants to do business in the city with the recipe. However, as the Count offers him 20,000 gold coins immediately, Harold is forced to reconsider his words. He is the first person to be on Shark Tank in a parallel dimension. Harold thinks that the amount is no joke and takes the deal. The Count gives him the contract, and Harold signs it gladly. As he receives a copy of the signed contract, he thinks that just selling recipes is a profitable business for him. The Count then tells him that he can receive the 20,000 gold coins from the bank located in the capital city, and the symbol on the contract is the key to a personal vault, so he must keep it safe. Harold then gets down to fulfilling his part of the business and decides to show the Count the recipe. Later, he returns to his hotel, and as he is eating lunch, Helena comes to meet him. She has heard that he left to meet Count Couldn't and wants to know what they talked about. As he tells her that he sold the recipe for gelato, she is furious. But as Harold tells her that he sold it for 20,000 gold coins, she is immediately proud of him. She tells him that now she does not want to stay in just a single hotel room and tells Harold to find a mansion with at least 10 rooms for them to live in. I respect ladies, but this is straight up gold digger behavior. Harold confides in Helena about that and tells her that she can use her wizard powers to create a spa to earn her money. He claims that he earned this money, so he will decide how to use it. Helena calls him petty and reminds him that the 1 year of their contract will be over soon, and they should stay in a good relationship even after that. Harold is taken aback by her passive, aggressive warning and asks her if she will stay with him if he makes bread for her, and she promises to think about it. Soon after that, Harold goes to the bank and tells the receptionist that he wants to borrow some money. He shows her the contract with the seal, and she tells him to wait for a while as she brings a heavy treasure chest to him. Harold can already smell the gold in there, and he asks the lady if he can also open an account here. She replies that he can open an account and get a personal seal that will serve as his key. He will also get special contract papers that he can use to make deals with other people. Harold asks her to create an account for him and transfer all 20,000 gold coins into that. He also asks for 10 contract papers, and the lady tells him to keep the documents safe because, while forging the seal is very hard, some con artists may easily copy his signature. Harold is happy to hear all the instructions, and he thinks that now he can finally achieve his dream of buying a house. Going by what Helena told him, he really buys a house with 10 rooms, and she is impressed. Hans is also excited to see the new mansion, and he asks Harold if they will also live there. Lucas scolds him, saying that they will stay in the separate servants' quarters, but Harold corrects him and tells him that they will stay in a room on the first floor because that way they can come to his side quickly. While Lucas is shocked to hear that, Hans is really excited and tells Harold that he is the best. Harold then tells everyone to start unpacking and then commands Lucas to go to the workforce office and hire 7 servants to manage the mansion. Lucas asks if he should hire a maid for Helena also, and she tells him to do that. Helena says that she wants to help him too, and she asks Harold if using water magic as much as he wants will be fine. He replies that right now there are not many people living here, so she does not need to worry about that and can take it easy. She then immediately starts demanding bread, and Harold tells her to let him unpack first. Harold then tells his servants to take a nice, warm bath and rest for the day. He has prepared soaps for them too, and they say that he is the best boss in the whole wide world. Harold is happy to hear that the working conditions in this world are so strict that he can keep his employees happy just by giving them soap. It's still better than corporate pizza parties, in my opinion. Later, Harold is puzzled by another problem. As he looks at his new house, he wonders where he should open the dimension gate. He can create 2 new gates on each side, and he plans to create one here, and the other one when he gets his own land. Harold thinks that since he is going to open the gate in his room, the location should be safe from anyone who comes snooping around. He then opens the gate at a convenient location using the magic spell in his original contract. After reaching his apartment in the modern world, he starts cleaning the place. Harold thinks that this place gets neglected because of the time he spends in the other world and wonders if he should hire a helper. Just then, his food delivery comes, and Harold thinks that he can't eat delicious food like this on the other side. As he starts eating like a pig, he wonders if he should buy a big house in this world too. He starts checking out the prices of good apartments in some good localities and finds that the price is too high. He decides to pass on the good areas for now, but then thinks that if he sells a couple more good recipes, he can have enough money to buy a river-facing apartment. Harold thinks that he has enough time to do that and decides to enjoy doing some business first. Just then, someone knocks on his door, and Harold finds out that it is the delivery for the items he ordered the other day. He opens it up while thinking about opening up a delivery service in Romania City. The items he has bought are comfy leather shoes, but they are for Helena and not him. He returns to his mansion and knocks on her door. She asks him what he wants, and he tells her that he has a gift for her. Helena immediately tears apart the gift box, asking him if he brought bread, and he tells her that it is not bread but shoes. Harold tells her that since it is getting cold, he decided to buy them for her. He helps Helena put them on and then asks her what she thinks. She replies that they are pretty and warm, and seeing her smile makes Harold think of her as a woman for the first time. She asks him why he is starting at her, and he quickly finds an excuse and says that he has to give the shoes to Hans and Lucas too. Soon, they hire all the servants they need, which include a chef, an experienced butler, one handyman, a valet, a maid, and 2 general-purpose servants. Lucas introduces them all to Harold, who realizes that hiring servants is also a tiresome task. Lucas then says that now he and Hans should also move out of the mansion and live with other servants. Harold says that he would like them to stay here, but he is adamant that it will not send a good message to the new servants if they see them get special treatment. After that, Harold takes Hans with him to the market to shop for some good ingredients. He asks Hans if there is something he wants to eat, and he nervously tells him that anything is fine. As Harold insists, he asks him to keep this a secret for Lucas since he will scold him for making requests of the master. Hans says that he wants to eat some warm soup since the winter is coming, and that gives Harold an idea. He buys pig bones and organs to prepare the soup. Our MC seems to like the waste body parts of pigs more than the meat itself. As he prepares to clean them, the cook, Seth, arrives there and asks him to let him do the cooking instead. Harold decides to ask for his help and asks him to clean the organs and drain the blood. He tells Seth that he will teach him how to cook the dish later. He then tells him that this was for tomorrow's dinner and he needs to prepare something else for tonight. With that, he leaves the kitchen, and the butler, Corky, tells him that his bath is ready. Harold wonders if this butler is as good as the one in the Meredith household and follows him to the bathhouse. He takes a dip and feels relaxed, and the butler asks him if he wants his water temperature to be adjusted. Harold tells him that it is perfect, and Corky moves on to the issues in the mansion. He claims that since it was not used for a long period of time, many parts require immediate fixing. Harold replies that there is no need to worry about money and tells the butler to get everything fixed as soon as possible. He also has some ideas about additions to the house, like a heater in the servants' building and some cows or chickens in the empty barn. He keeps on suggesting his ideas, and the butler notes them down diligently. Harold thinks that they should hire a glass artisan, a builder, and a tailor too, and make a small swordsmanship training ground on one corner of the garden. He also wants to know the current prices of all the major ingredients in the city, and he tells Corky to find someone who knows the market very well. The butler confidently tells him that he has nothing to worry about and that he will do everything perfectly. Harold is already impressed by him and thinks that he can have it easy thanks to Corky. The next day, he heads into the kitchen first thing in the morning, and the cook, Seth, is shocked to see him. Harold asks him if he cleaned the pig bones and organs as he was told, and when he affirms, he tasks Seth to put it in a big kettle and boil it. The cook is confused but does as he says and keeps the kettle on a low flame the entire day. As he stirs it to make sure that nothing sticks to the bottom, he wonders what the master is planning to make with the waste materials of a pig. He doesn't think it will turn out well, but he has his orders and he can't disobey them. Meanwhile, Harold finds Helena outside, walking on crunchy leaves. He asks her what she is doing when he notices that she is wearing the shoes he gave her. Helena says that she likes the shoes because they are warm, and Harold is happy to hear about that. Just then, he hears Carl's voice, who waves to him as he comes running to greet them. He says that he came running to see him as soon as he heard that he had bought a house in the capital and had even brought a housewarming gift. Harold thanks him and remarks that he looks much better than the last time he saw him. Carl replies that it is because he is living his passion and having the best time of his life. Then he notices Helena and asks what the Duke is doing here. She gives him a clueless stare, and he realizes that it is better to not ask too many questions. Harold then tells Carl that he is cooking something new, so he tells him to come and take a look. He asks Helena to join them too, but she wants to step on more crunchy leaves. Harold then takes Carl to the kitchen, where his soup is almost ready. Harold adds some chopped leeks, barley, rice, and some boiled pork to it, and with that, his dish is done. He then orders Seth to deliver these to the dining hall and tells him to follow the same process as him to make more for himself and other servants. Seth is taken aback to hear that and confirms that they can eat the same food as their master, but Harold says that he likes this dish a lot, and that is why he wants to introduce it to all the servants as a way to welcome them into the family. Seth follows his orders and takes the soup to the servants' quarters. The servants are curious about the strange soup, and one of them says that he couldn't eat it if there were pig organs and bones in it. Seth says that he must be quite full to insult the recipes of the Baron himself. Lucas says that if this is the recipe created by Harold, it will surely be delicious because everyone in the Meredith family has praised his cooking a lot. He takes a bite, and others follow him. With just one sip of the soup, they are swept away by the taste and wonder how such a dish can be made from pig bones and organs. Seth can't believe that someone would think of using the parts most people throw away, but Harold managed to make them into something delicious. He thinks that putting leeks into the soup was the best decision, and in another location, Carl has the same thoughts. He tells Harold that his recipe has once again inspired him and asks him to sell this recipe to the Inn Association. He thinks that the ingredients are cheap and the process is quite simple too, so the businessmen would love it since it can make them a good profit. Harold asks him if he is sure that people will buy it, and Carl says that they will definitely do. Their discussion is disturbed by some slurping noises, and they find that Helena is really enjoying it too. After that, Carl asks Helena if she isn't going to open a business of her own. He suggests that she can earn a lot of money if she sells water during the winter. She has already lost her motivation as she replies that a wizard should seek permission from the imperial family before starting a business. Carl asks her if it is that hard to get permission, but that's not it. Helena claims that she has no plans to start a business, basically because she hates the emperor. She then declares that not using her abilities will also be wasteful, and decides to give out water to those who need it. She tells Carl to take water from her if he ever needs it because he is one of her friends. Harold feels like a proud dad, seeing that Helena has really matured. It seems that getting free water in the winter is not the most interesting thing for Carl because his attention is on the shoes Helena is wearing. He asks her where she got them from, and she replies that they were a gift from Harold. He requests that she let him take a look at it, and she gives him permission but warns him not to bring his face too close. As Carl checks out the shoes, he says that they are a really great item and wonders why no one has thought about this before. He claims that the outside is leather while the inside is wool, and woolens are one of the specialties of the Meredith family. He says that since both leather and wool are costly items, they can sell these shoes as luxury items. Harold likes where this is going and says that he will talk about this idea with Count Meredith when he meets him. Helena says she will also put in a good word for him, because more people would mean more convincing power. With that, Carl decides that it is time to return home. He invites Harold and Helena to pay him a visit sometime. But before he leaves, Harold asks Lucas to bring forth a gift. He brings a jar containing jujube tea, and Carl is happy to receive it. Later, Harold and Helena drink warm tea as they enjoy the cool breeze on the balcony. He then asks the elf girl if she really doesn't plan to use her abilities to earn some money, and she replies that she doesn't want to meet the imperial family. She says that if she needs permission, she will have to go to the imperial palace, and then they will see her face. Harold reminds her that everyone knows her and that she is also going to live more confidently from now on. And Helena screams at him, saying that this is a different matter. She explains that once the imperial family sees her, they will start making plans for her marriage, and she will have to marry someone she doesn't even want. Helena claims that the only safe way for her to open a business is to marry someone she likes first, and then approach the imperial family. She says that if she doesn't do that, she will have to marry someone from the imperial family. I think she has the perfect candidate right next to her. Harold asks her why she hates the imperial family so much that she once talked about killing the emperor. Helena replies that they know the weakness of the wizards, quite morbidly, and tells Harold that she will talk about that some other day. He realizes that the imperial family uses the weakness of the wizards not only to use them but also to force them to marry people they don't like. And he feels that they are the worst kind of humans. Harold tells Helena that if she doesn't have many options, she should consider faking a marriage. She replies that it is one way, but she does not want to do that unless absolutely necessary. She claims that if rumors about her getting married spread, she might not be able to marry the person she likes in the future. Harold thinks that Helena isn't even interested in men to begin with and asks her what kind of men are her type. Instead of giving him an answer, she tells him that it is too late and she needs to go to bed now. The next day, Harold is planning to plant some bamboo trees. Helena doesn't know about bamboo yet, and she thinks that by the time the bamboo tree grows, Harold will be an old man or, even worse, dead. Harold tells her that bamboo is actually a grass that can grow 5 meters tall in just 5 years. He explains that in the first 4 years, it will grow quite slowly, but in its final year, it will grow at 50 centimeters per day. This is how I do my assignments, too. 10% work is 10 days, and 90% on the last day. Helena says that 5 years are also quite long, and then asks Harold if he does not have any money. He replies that he has money, but he knows that bamboo isn't grown anywhere in the kingdom, so he can't buy it. Helena tells him that he can instead hire a plant wizard from the wizard secretariat. She reveals that there are all kinds of wizards there waiting to be hired. Harold is really excited to hear that, and he asks Helena if she can get him a good discount since she is a wizard herself too. She replies that she isn't close enough to anyone to get him a discount, and Harold decides to go check out the wizard secretariat anyway. He finds that there are 50 wizards registered in the association. The healer wizard is the most expensive, and they also have barrier magic. Upon reading the list, Harold thinks that being able to use magic will be a great help to the people. But since it is so expensive, only rich merchants and nobles can take the help of wizards. Just then, inspiration strikes him. He thinks that if he uses the elf spring and convinces the wizards who aren't under the control of the imperial family to work with him, he can let them use magic without restriction and benefit from that. He thinks that with many wizards living there, the over-region will become prosperous and powerful, and no one will dare attack it. However, he shatters his dreams himself by thinking that if the wizards gather together and take control of the elf spring to start a rebellion, no one will be able to stop them. Soon after that, he meets a plant wizard named Raudoren. Harold thinks that Edro has not yet inherited the title of Duke, so he decides to be a little more comfortable around him. He takes him to his mansion for 200 gold coins and leads him to the place where he has planted bamboo. Edro can feel the energy of plant life from the soil, and he asks Harold if he plans to grow some flowers. He suggests against it, saying that they will all die because of the severe winter, and as a plant wizard, he won't like that a bit. Harold tells her that the crops will grow well even during the winter, so he does not need to worry about that. Edro then asks him to step back, and he uses his power to make the bamboo shoots sprout out of the ground immediately. Within a few seconds, they grow as tall as they can be, and Harold can't believe his eyes. Edro is also amazed to see a new type of plant, and Harold tells him that bamboo is a common plant in his hometown. The wizard remarks that it is a beautiful plant and asks Harold to sell some seeds to him. He offers to not take any payment and even purchase 1,000 gold coins worth of seeds. Harold is happy to take his offer and generously tells Edro to take as many seeds as he needs. After the wizard leaves, Harold thinks that his bamboo garden is complete, and he just needs someone he can take a walk with. He asks Lucas to call Helena for him, and she is amazed to see the bamboo plants. She exclaims that this plant is as beautiful as the banyan tree, which is the same thing Edro said. She hopes that they can plant flowers around the bamboo plants, and she then enjoys a walk with Harold. Soon after that, Harold goes to a construction guild with plans to create a central heating system for the servants' quarters. His plan is to create a fire pit outside the house and lead hot air through a hollow section on the floor. The contractor thinks that it is an unusual and difficult concept because Harold wants to heat the building not through the hot air, but through the floor itself. However, when Harold offers to pay 1,000 more gold coins for building the central heating, the contractor tells him that they will start working immediately. Soon after that, Harold takes Helena to the newest construction on his property. It is not just the central heating, but an entirely new building for the servants. She asks him how it is different from other buildings, and he tells her that she will know as soon as she enters it. Harold asks Helena to take off her shoes and come in, and just as she steps on the floor, she realizes what he wanted to show her. She can't believe that the floor is warm, and then Harold tells her to wear a shawl and sit on the floor. He opens the windows and takes a seat next to Helena, asking her what she thinks about it. She happily replies that while her body feels warm, her face still feels cool, and it feels good. Harold then asks her how she is so comfortable sitting on the floor while other nobles struggle to do it, and she replies that she is used to it because she stayed in a place that didn't even have a bed for a while. Harold has heard that Helena's mother passed away just as she gave birth to her, and he decides to tell her his sad story again. He has only told her about the accidental deaths of his parents, but now he tells her that they died on his birthday. Helena remarks that both of them have unfortunate birthdays. Harold asks her when she was born, and she replies that she was born on the 14th of February. She tells Harold that it is a special day for elves, called Valentine's Day. He is surprised to hear that they have Valentine's Day here too, and Helena elaborates that it is the day that marks the death of the greatest wizard of the first generation, Valentine. Helena says that according to her nanny Masa, her mother was really happy and cheerful throughout her labor because she was going to give birth on Valentine's Day. She thought that her daughter might just be the reincarnation of the greatest wizard. After that, Helena asks Harold about his birthday, and he replies that it passed several days ago. She is furious upon hearing that and asks him why he did not tell her that before. He says that it was not good timing, and Helena asks him to tell her about it the next time because she will celebrate it for him. Harold smiles upon hearing this and says that the next time they should both celebrate their birthdays. Helena doesn't let the mood get any sweeter than that, and she immediately demands that he make some bread for her. Harold thinks that it has been a long time since he made dessert for her, so he is going to try something new this time. More than that, he wants to make up for breaking the promise of giving Helena one loaf per week because of his busy schedule. As Harold prepares the batter, the cook, Seth, asks him to let him do this. He replies that he enjoys cooking and will come and use the kitchen many times, so he should not let it bother him. Harold says that he wants to make a pie right now, and Seth asks him to let him do that at least. However, Harold says that he won't be able to do it since he is going to make pie that is much different from how it is made here. He declares that the most important thing in a pie is the savory taste of the butter and the texture when chewing it. So, for this recipe, he is using almost half a pound of butter for 1 pound of flour. He tells Seth that they can only get the best texture if they use cold butter, and they can adjust the taste by adding salt to the flour. Harold says that they need to keep kneading the dough while adding ice water slowly, and Seth panics as he hears about that. Harold tells him that the colder the water is, the more crispy the tart will become. The chef is surprised to hear this and remarks that Harold really knows a lot about cooking, just as the rumors say. He replies that it comes from his experience, because his mother was really great at baking and making snacks. He then continues working on the dish and tells Seth to watch carefully because he will need to make it later. Harold soon finishes the multi-layered tart, called millefeuille. Why does every fancy food item need to have a French name? Harold decides to give the prettiest one to Helena and asks Seth to pack some of the tarts, send them to Carl, and eat the rest with everyone. Harold then goes to Helena's room, and she is furious because he took so long to create some simple bread. However, as she eats the crispy tart, her mood suddenly improves. She still finds something to complain about and says that it is not bread but a snack. Harold tells her that since they have already had dinner, he thought of making it as a dessert. He asks her to finish it, but after Helena looks at it for a while, she passes it to Harold and tells him to finish it instead. He can't understand what is happening, and then Helena says that it was really good. She suggests he open a dessert shop nearby before asking him if he has heard the latest news. Helena reveals that recently, the Meredith family has announced that they are going to fund growing artists, which is why they are making a building and an art hall. As Harold eats the tart, he says that he is surprised to learn that Helena knows more about current affairs than him, even though she rarely leaves her room. She reveals that she sometimes sneaks out of her house and then gets back to the original topic. She says that it will be a great idea to open a dessert store because the bread Harold makes is also a work of art, and it would be really popular among art patrons. Later, Harold is with Lucas, and he asks him if he is close with the new maid, Kanna. Lucas flinches on hearing that, and Hans runs to confirm the news, saying that the two of them are always together during the breaks. Lucas gets embarrassed upon hearing this and says that he is just trying to teach the girl some stuff because she is new. Harold remarks that it is even more suspicious when he is defending it so hard. Just then, the girl in question comes there and asks Harold if she can help him with anything. He tells her to keep doing whatever she is doing right now, and Lucas is suddenly frozen as she passes by, making Harold realize that boy has finally found his first love. Just then, Carl comes there because Harold had called for him. He asks him about the reason for their meeting, and Harold replies that he wants to get into the restaurant business, but he doesn't know much about it. He wants to know someone who can help him with this, and Carl replies that if he has no connections, he can visit the guilds for professional help. Harold asks him if he needs help from a guild to open a restaurant, and Carl replies that there are great benefits to being with a guild. First, they have skilled professionals and other connections, and they can also assure that their members get the raw materials at a cheaper rate. He says that this will lead to a cost disparity between the final products, and those who are not associated with the guilds will have many setbacks. Carl tells Harold to visit an information guild that is filled with people whose only business is to find out gossip about different industries. He believes that he can find someone who will point him in the right direction there. Harold likes the idea and thinks that it will be nice to hire an informant who can tell him the right person to contact for his restaurant business as well as his shoe business. Soon, a young girl from the Information Guild pays Harold a visit at his request. She introduces herself as Raina, and Harold decides to discuss the terms of the contract before talking business with her. He says that he can end the contract when he pleases, and then asks Raina if she is willing to follow him when he leaves this city after 3 years. She replies that it is her job, as an intelligence agent, to follow the master wherever he goes. Harold then asks about her family background, and Raina says that her father was a high-class knight, and she has learned swordsmanship from him too. Harold is amazed to hear this and remarks that she doesn't look like a swordsman at all, and the girl replies that it is because they take great precautions while training. She explains that she always wore gloves to prevent her hands from bruising during training so that no one could find out how good she is with swords. Harold says he would like to see her skills, and without wasting a moment, Raina quickly points a small knife at his throat. She says that his maid didn't check her properly because she is a woman. She claims that this is the reason why women are more successful as informants and assassins. The girl then places her knife back and apologizes to Harold for shocking him. He is still shocked as he realizes that he could have died back then, and Raina tells him not to scold his maid because no one has ever found the hidden knife before. She then tells Harold that if they form a contract, it doesn't matter what kind of job he wants her to do, but she has one condition. When they leave for a new place, she wants to be the leader of a guild and have a building in her name. Harold is happy to accept her conditions, and Raina says she is glad to work with him too. As she sees him smiling at her, she thinks about her supervisor screaming at her because she kept rejecting her clients. She couldn't be bothered then, and she asked him to get her a rich and handsome employer if he wanted her to take a job. Is she looking for a client or for a husband? Her supervisor told her that he doesn't know about Rich, but one handsome baron has contacted them, and Raina was eager to take the case. Now that she has seen the handsome and rich baron, she is satisfied. Harold tells her that she needs to work only when he asks her, and she can relax the rest of the time. Raina insists that they should live together because this is a permanent job, and he tells her to take a room on the first floor. As they are about to shake hands and seal the deal, Helena barges into the room, calling for Harold. She asks him if he has an informant, and as Raina sees her, she panics because she wasn't expecting a wizard here. Harold tells Helena that she came at the right time and introduces her to Raina, who will be living with them from now on. Raina is confused about Harold living together with a wizard and thinks that they are engaged, and her motivation level suddenly drops. She introduces herself to Helena, who doesn't seem to like her either, and tells her that she will keep an eye on her. The mood suddenly gets tense, and Harold interrupts it by asking Raina to get him the information he needs within a week and also to look for a leatherwork apprentice and master. After Raina leaves, Harold asks Helena if she doesn't like the girl. She replies that she has not yet formed an opinion of her and then asks Harold why they need an informant in the first place. He replies that since she suggested opening a dessert store, he wanted to find a suitable guild to join and wanted the help of an informant to pick the right guild. Helena tells him that it is good that he got a girl informant but asks him to be careful around her because rich and handsome men are always a target for such girls. Harold is surprised to get a compliment from Helena, and he thinks that it is nothing more than her concern because she doesn't want him to get tricked. He is not the smartest, but he makes good bread. Soon after that, winter arrives, and the city is covered in snow. One day, as Harold is waiting in his living room, Raina comes there and immediately starts complaining that since it was snowing today, her clothes are really wet. Harold doesn't understand what she is hinting at and simply asks her to move closer to the fire to warm herself up, and she thanks him. He then asks her what she has found out, and she tells him that the restaurant-related guilds all offered the same features and facilities, so she did some background checks on the 4 most prominent ones. She gives Harold the detailed written report about that, and he wonders where the hell she took out this big envelope from. Raina casually tells him that he doesn't want to know it. As he checks the report, Harold asks her if she found an apprentice for the shoe business as well. She replies that she found a talented person, but he has a bit of a story. She claims that he is the type of person who will become loyal to anyone as long as they are just a bit nice to him. Soon after that, she brings him in. The man introduces himself as Tori, the shoemaker, and Harold introduces himself as well before saying that he is planning to start a shoe business as well, and that is why he needs his help. Tori replies that handmade shoes are mostly custom made by master craftsmen and asks Harold if he wants to start a business. Is he talking about ready-made shoes? He affirms, saying that they will make shoes in different sizes and sell them through a store. Tori realizes that their primary target for this shop is the commoners, and Harold remarks that if they get famous, even nobles may come to their shop. Harold then asks Tori what he thinks about getting a 3-year contract with him for now. He says that he will get 5 gold coins each year, and if he does well, he will raise it to 7 gold coins. Harold has heard that when an artisan makes a contract with someone as a servant, they cannot reveal the details of what happens inside the house to outsiders. He thinks that the pay he is offering Tori is better than the market rate, but it won't make much difference to his budget. This way, he can have a worker and also keep his shoemaking process a secret. With that, the shoemaker accepts the contract. Later, Harold is fretting about selecting some items while he is in his modern-day apartment. Apparently, Helena's birthday is near, and he plans to give her a gift she will remember and cherish. Of course, the gift can be anything but food, and he decides to make lasagna for her. So, when he goes back to the fantasy world, he visits the plant shop run by the wizard Edro, who is surprised to see him. Harold remarks that his place is really beautiful and asks him if he hired a weather wizard to keep his plants alive even in winter. He affirms, and then asks Harold what he is looking for. He replies that he is looking for a tomato, and fearing that the wizard may not know it, he says that it is a plant with a round and red fruit. Edro has what he wants, and he tells Harold to follow him. He reveals that most people don't usually look for tomatoes and asks Harold what he is planning to do with them. He claims that he is going to cook using those and asks Edro to give him 5 tomatoes. He gets sad at the thought of harvesting his precious plant friends, but does so anyway. He gives Harold the tomatoes and starts crying, saying that this is why he prefers the plants that are only good for their looks because no one takes them apart. He sheds a few tears, asking the tomatoes to be good food, and now Harold feels guilty about approaching him. Soon, he takes the ingredients back home and starts working on making lasagna. He has Seth acting as his assistant and tells him to use 2 pounds of flour with 9 eggs to make a dough, and then put it in an ice box until tomorrow. He is ready to make the sauce while Seth is at it, but just then Helena pops next to him and menacingly asks him if he is planning to make bread. Harold has a mini heart attack, but he controls himself and then says that he is going to create lasagna, which is a type of pasta this time. Helena doesn't really care about that, because according to her, bread is the best. Harold tells her not to eat lasagna if she doesn't want to, and she screams that she wants to. She claims that there are a lot of dishes apart from bread that are delicious, and she asks him if lasagna is more delicious than bread. He tells her that she can only know when she tastes it. The day passes, and his pasta dough is ready. Harold first flattens it to make a sheet, then pours the sauce between layers of the dough, and bakes it in the oven to make the lasagna. He then tells Seth that they are going to make this on Helena's birthday, so he must memorize the recipe, and then asks him to eat it with everyone else for now. Helena's birthday is not so far away now, and Harold goes to a bakery in the modern world because he wants to order a special cake for her. With this, the video ends. Leave a like and comment if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to our channel for more such videos.